Horns up to you, Neil. Neil, me, Chris Barnes. Of course, you know that. You booked the Cameo for yourself. And it looks like you just wanted to ask me a couple questions. So I'll get right to it, buddy. You say I've got some dumb questions, curiosities to ask. Buddy, there's no dumb questions. There's just dumb answers, and I'll probably give you some dumb answers. But yeah, man, thanks for the Cameo booking, and I kind of like these ones, man. I mean, people don't usually ask me questions. They just wait for me to rant on about things, which is usually on, well, X now. It was Twitter before, but that's where I usually get all my aggravation on the world out. So, but there's that. So you've got some questions here. We'll get right into it. Number one, what would be my 5 horror movies that I love and would recommend everyone watch? Well, I mean, I'm a movie lover. I'm a film buff, as they say. So my tastes are all over the place, and I love all kinds of movies. I'm not. I mean, yeah, of course, I love horror films, well written and well directed and acted horror films. I even like, really bad acted and written and directed horror films. I get into these whole, kind of just, into certain, I suppose, genres of filmmaking, and I explore that, pretty strongly. I go into these vibes where I really want to know everything about a certain director or a certain actor, everything they've done, or genre of filmmaking. I remember, when you used to rent videos at video stores. I used to go to Hollywood Video, and for a year and a half, all I did was rent every video in line, every one in the classic movies. So for a year and a half, every day I went and got a movie in the classic movie, black and white films, a lot of noir stuff. So I rented everything in that section over a year and a half. So that's kind of how I operate. And once I get on the scent of something, I can really go after it. So, but that's just how I am. I really delve into things deeply and try to learn as much about a subject as I can. So, but for horror films, I don't really recommend everyone watch anything I talk about. It's just my personal taste. So, some of the horror films that are kind of really standard ones to me these 5 would be based upon the director, or just where I was at the time that I saw it in my life, my history personally. But a lot of the times it because films or music kind of take you back to the point where you first heard it and what you were doing in your life and stuff like that. So some of that creeps into this list, and some of it's just by the greatness of the film itself and the director and actors maybe. But I'd have to say, and some of them would be very mundane to people that don't really delve into things like I do and try to find out the real understanding of the project itself, such as The Shining. A lot of people may think, oh, that's a very commercial pick. But knowing Stanley Kubrick's work, not so much, because there's a lot of things that he did within that movie that have a different meaning, and there's a lot of things about The Shining that are it's a genius work on very many levels, and there's different facets to that film. If you want to dive into that and do a little investigation of Kubrick's work on The Shining and the true meaning of what he did with that film, I would definitely recommend that. But for many reasons, that would be my number one. Number two, because of a point in time in my life when I saw the film at the theater, and I feel as though it's one of the first horror films that's a modern day, like it catapulted the whole slasher film type of genre, would be Friday the 13th Part 2. Great direction and camera work on that movie. Great acting and effects as well. So number three, I'm very much into Italian giallo and Italian horror. So Lucio Fulci has always been like one of my all-time favorite directors and artists, as far as the art of film goes. And I love all of his films, really. I mean, I've seen a lot. I mean, I haven't seen every one of his films, but going back to about, I think, I went really far back into his catalog. I haven't seen everything, but I've seen a lot. I mean, pretty much everything. And I own a lot of his stuff. So I'd have to go with, it's not my favorite Fulci film, but as far as the horror side of things it may be New York Ripper. Because I just enjoy also seeing historic parts of life, as like seeing New York City in whenever that film was made. I believe it was like 81 or 82, around there. So I gravitate towards seeing the world as I remember it when I was younger. I didn't go to New York City till about 8 or 9 years later. So, but which was probably the end of the heyday of New York. So I enjoy watching movies that kind of capture the point in time when I remember life was a lot more interesting, and even, the way people lived and enjoyed entertainment in life itself, automobilia. I'm a big automobile, I'm a car guy. I love motorcycles as well. Anything like that. I'm, boats even. So, New York Ripper kind of gives me a lot of different stuff as far as that goes, and it's a fucking amazing film as far as Fulci goes. I think probably my favorite Fulci film is Beatrice Cenci. I'm probably not pronouncing it like in Italian, but so that's a great one for me, New York Ripper. And then another one of his films, City of the Living Dead, just also one of those movies that where I was when I first saw it and how it affected me as a young kid. It really was the utter like gore of that film kind of stuck with me. So that's a really heavy film as far as that goes, and I like intertwining stories. The way that film is told is incredible to me. I love it. So 2 Fulci films, and so that's 3, 4. What was I thinking about before about that? Oh, geez, you got me here. Well, I'll Jeez, man. Well, no, I went. Well, what did we get here? That's 4. We did The Shining, Friday the 13th Part 2, New York Ripper, City of the Living Dead, and then this is 5. All right, so this would fall into, a lot of people say, oh, it's sci-fi, and oh, it's horror. So it's sci-fi horror. And it's, I would say, my favorite John Carpenter film, The Thing. So the Thing, it's a remake. But it's just such a great film. It's probably my favorite Kurt Russell film as well. And another great special effects movie. It's very dark. Super interesting storyline. The ending of that film, I've seen that film 1,000 times, and finally a couple years ago someone explained what the ending was, or how it actually ends after the film stops, which really made sense to me after that. So it kind of unlocked a whole new part of the storyline and ending of the film. So that was just like a breath of fresh air. Like, I've understood the movie in a whole different way, that was a genius way of telling the story by John Carpenter, and just a fucking amazing movie, man. I just love it. And even though they're in, in one place the whole time, and there's not really any surrounding city or anything. They're in the snow the whole, in a base, whatever, an army base or whatever. It does still remind me of like a time, a better time in the world. So that part of it too, a simpler time that I lived through that I wish the world was still like. That kind of feeling grabs me from that movie as well, and the special effects on that were just groundbreaking. So it's a really important film to me. So that's it for the top 5. I mean, kind of all over the place there. And so your next set of questions, you say, what are my thoughts on the following bands / musicians? Alice Cooper, Nazareth, and Uriah Heep. I saw Alice Cooper on the Raise Your Fist and Yell film, tour. I was going to say this as well, and I also saw Alice Cooper in the film of another film by John Carpenter. What was that movie? Geez. Well, anyways, but yeah, I can't. Now I can't. I've got a brain fart going on. But anyways, he was in a couple films that I've seen. One with the John Carpenter film, and I wasn't a huge Alice Cooper fan. I mean, just kind of was before. Like, I mean, I dig his stuff, but I wasn't like that. When I saw him raise your fist and yell, it was a great show, really cool stage show and everything. But I was kind of already on my way to different stuff than that. Nazareth, I mean, it's the same thing. It's kind of like I appreciate all these bands, and we did cover Hair of the Dog on the newest album we put out, just because it was a song that I thought was really, lent itself to our kind of, heaviness in the way we kind of do cover songs. And I tried doing that song with the old band. It's the older version of 6 Feet Under some years back in 2005, I think, and it just didn't work out. And just one of those songs I always wanted to redo. So I wasn't a giant Nazareth fan. I like him when I hear him on the radio and whatnot, but I'm not a Nazareth aficionado. And Uriah Heep, I didn't really know too much about Uriah Heep. I mean, same type of thing. They're playing their songs. I couldn't name one of their songs, although I did remember that the guys in Uriah Heep were Ozzy's musicians and wrote the first Ozzy solo album, The Blizzard of Oz. So Blizzard of Oz was written, and I think they all performed that in the studio when that album was created. So I did know about that. Prince of Darkness, that's what it was, the Alice Cooper appearance in the John Carpenter film Prince of Darkness. I knew it was going to come to me. Saw that at the theater with a friend of mine when it came out, and Cooper was good in that. He played a crazy looking possessed street person. He's very theatrical, which is awesome, and his music is too. So, but yeah, those bands were all like bands that are just kind of like radio rock type of stuff that was a little bit before, like, 70s type of stuff. I was more like late 70s, last few years of the 70s is where I came into music. So as a kid, I started at Kiss, Van Halen, guess Ozzy, Ted Nugent, Judas Priest, Motorhead, Iron Maiden, and then farther into it at that point, I was getting into like kind of more like unknown metal, I guess, thrash bands, like, just like Sept and German stuff. Like, I really dig this album by a band called Trance, called Power Infusion, but that was one of my favorites. But I kept getting deeper and deeper into music, and then became a musician myself. So, well, I went through the whole gamut there, getting you, like I said, probably dumb answers. They were pretty good questions. So, Neil, I hope you enjoyed it, and appreciate you taking the time to pick my brain about some things you were interested in knowing. All right, man? Horns up to you, buddy. Thanks, dude.